Folks, I'm excited about our guest. You know him, you love him, you've seen him around. ESPN Raiders reporter Paul Gutierrez is a big compa. Gilbert and I always talk about him. We were actually talking about him last night on the live because I have a very special video for you, Paul, that I'll bring out towards the end of this. But I definitely appreciate you coming on. How are you doing? How you been?
I'm good, man. Just getting ready, kind of hurry up and wait mode, getting ready for the season to start after what seems like the off season seems like it flew by like that. But since training camp started, it seems like it's really taken a long time to get to this space. So just, everybody's undefeated and everybody's got pie in the sky dream. So looking forward to seeing where we can go from here.
What did you make of training camp out in Costa Mesa?
Yeah, from a football X's and O standpoint, obviously the big storyline was who's the Raider quarterback going to be? Is it going to be the returning second-year guy, Aiden O'Connell, or is it going to be the guy they gave $15 million of guaranteed money to in Gardner Minshew? And we saw what the answer was to that. So, yeah, that was the big storyline. But then also, the Davante Adams, how's he going to kind of jibe with a new quarterback in Gardner Minshew? And the Raiders getting away from Las Vegas, getting out of the heat and going to Costa Mesa for a couple of weeks. That was kind of nice to do that as well. So it's kind of a weird thing here where Antonio Pierce talks about trying to get back to the Raiders' DNA or find their DNA and establish an identity, a culture. And it seems like it's more about relocating it, finding it again, and to go back to one of the capital cities of Raider Nation, which is LA, where they spent a lot of time from 82 to 94 there. It seems like that's part of what this journey, part of what this story is for this team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. I wonder if they're going to head up to Napa soon, or what their plan is with that. Because I was telling Gilbert, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, you've been around the NFL for a lot of years. I used to like the idea of leaving your city, going somewhere else, kind of establishing that old school team vibe. It's only you guys, you're in the hotel, you're talking to each other, you're hanging out, instead of them sleeping in their own beds and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So do you feel like maybe the Raiders will continue moving around?
Yeah, I don't think I could answer this question quickly enough, but yes, I definitely think they're going somewhere else. And you did bring up Napa, and I can't report this per se, but if I were a betting man and if I had gone to UNLV and if I was in Las Vegas, yeah, I'd probably wager something or two that they'd go back specifically to Napa. Because, and I did this story back when, and we talked about it when we saw each other in Costa Mesa, was part of what they kind of stumbled upon in Costa Mesa was because the Chargers and Rams basically owned those marketing rights, the territorial rights to that area. Yeah, they could go there and practice and do their thing, but they couldn't really market it or make announcements or make money off of being there, unlike what the Cowboys do out in Oxnard because they were grandfathered in. So even if they were to go to a place like Napa, they may run into some similar situations there with the 49ers being the only Bay Area team anymore since the Raiders left there and came to Las Vegas. But they do like that idea, and that's specifically what Antonio Pierce wanted to do. As far as the team messaging was, it wasn't about getting out of the heat. It was about bonding, and I think a little bit of that is true too. They definitely went hand in hand. So getting away and doing that, I think that's what it's like baseball spring training, right? These guys aren't all doing it at Dodger Stadium or Angel Stadium.
Yep.
They're going off either to Arizona. And, I'm old enough to have covered the Dodgers when they were doing spring training at Vero Beach, which is a unique place in and of itself. So there's something about getting away and focusing on the task at hand that I think is you can't really put a price tag on that.
If you guys ever met Paul Gutierrez in person, if you guys ever have the honor of meeting him, you will know. You will know he looks a lot younger than what he says he is.
Yeah, I'm gonna take those off.
He's a lot. He looks a lot younger than what he says. Hey, that's a Latino that Latino heat that we get, that we don't look like we age. So there you go. They could come to San Diego as well. San Diego is a town that they don't have a team. They don't have any of those restrictions, unlike the other two locations. And there's a lot of Raider Nation in San Diego. I can tell you, it's Raider Nation and Charger fans basically make up the San Diego unit. But Paul, okay, let's go to it. Gardner Minshew over Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. Right
decision, correct decision. What did you see? What did you think about that move?
Yeah, it depends upon what were the guidelines, right? And if you had asked me throughout the entirety of the competition, it looked to me like, it's, I'll put this in boxing. I'll put this in fighting
There you
parlance,
go.
right? Is if you want to take out the champ, you can't just outpoint him. You got to beat him. It's one of those things. I actually, again, putting my age out there and dating myself, my first ever boxing assignment, or one of my first boxing assignments at the LA Times, was the De La Hoya Trinidad fight. Now, I
Oh,
looked
wow.
at that, and at that time, I remember thinking, yeah, on the scorecards, Oscar won that fight, but he also was so far ahead on the scorecards, he coasted. And he said it himself. He got on his bicycle for the last 3 or 4 rounds. Is that how you win a title fight, by coasting at the end? I don't think so. So it was kind of a similar situation with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew in training camp and throughout the entire offseason program, was that Aiden was the returning guy. He was the champ, so to speak, right? And to beat him out, you couldn't just outpoint him. You're going to have to beat him and take it away. Now, those are two different questions. If you were to ask me, well, who do you think, Paul, what based on what you saw, who had a better camp, who looked better out there? I would have said Gardner Minshew, but I wasn't so sure that he took the title from the champ, so to speak. But when you talked to Antonio Pierce and what the decision making was in on that process, it was about who could give them a chance to get off to a quicker start. And when you look at their skill sets and what they bring to the table, Aiden is the more of the classic drop back passer, but he needs a lot of time to get the ball downfield and to diagnose a play and see it. Gardner scrambles, with reckless abandon, and he extends plays. And when you have an offensive line that has been reimagined yet again, you got a new starting left guard, you got a new starting right guard, you got a new starting right tackle. Those are the things that kind of come into play too. So with Gardner being able to extend plays and scramble a little bit and take off, as opposed to Aiden, who is more more of a statue, I guess, back there, but has the bigger arm. That's where they decided to go. And you can't really hate on that, because if that's what the game plan is, they want to get off to a quicker start. Okay, then you see that. Then you also throw into the mix there, oh, yeah, they did give this guy $15 million guaranteed too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Tom Telesco is not paying somebody $15 million to sit on the bench. I know all that too well.
Yeah.
Paul, today, Wednesday, we're recording on Wednesday afternoon. A bit of a story came out a couple of weeks ago. A story came out from Deshaun Jackson saying, "Hey, he said it on his podcast. I've been hearing that Davante told me, I can't remember which one he said, that Davante could be on his way out, that he's not happy, he wants out, and all of that." And that's rumblings that we've heard ever since Derek Carr left. Little rumblings here and there that he wants out. Today, what did he tell? Today, Wednesday, what did he tell you guys?
Yeah, so Davante came out and said basically that he was, facts are the facts, and that's not a fact. He said, number one, he said he's maybe talked to Deshaun Jackson in his life 3 or 4 times, and he's never really had a conversation with him about anything. So he said that's number one. Number two, he just denied it all. That Deshaun's whole claim on the podcast he was on was that he's unhappy. And if you kind of parse through Deshaun's words there, he doesn't really link them together. He doesn't really say, Davante told me he's unhappy. He said he's had conversations with him. Then he goes off into another tangent and says, well, look, they didn't get the quarterback they really wanted this year. So therefore he's unhappy. I believe he's unhappy. And it just kind of went on and on there. Davante, he took exception to it all and said, basically, if it's not coming from the horse's mouth, that it's BS. He said the only person he really shares his innermost feelings with on things like that would be his wife. And he said, and my wife's not out there dropping stuff on social media anyway, so don't believe it. And he said, look, if I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't be here. And he said, you guys know me well enough that if you were getting a vibe that I didn't want to be here, you'd feel it. Otherwise, if you don't feel it, then why is it even a story? And it should just kind of go away. So again, this is going to be a season-long story, though, at least until the trade deadline, because of his contract situation. And and if the Raiders are completely out of it by the trade deadline, yeah, it's probably going to be something that we're definitely going to have to chase it. But it's just, and I think what didn't help Davante's case, and this is me, just my observations, was the Netflix series Receiver. There was a lot of unflattering portrayals in there. And it's not just because it was in there. It's because as a willing participant, Davante had the option, the opportunity to say, no, you know what, maybe we shouldn't put that in there. Maybe we shouldn't put that in there of me killing Jimmy or me saying, hey, I'm getting killed every week. I need to get out of here. Because that then kind of feeds into the conspiracy theory, right? Or people making assumptions. So that's part of what's going on here as well. So again, everybody's undefeated week one, and we'll see exactly how it comes out. Although SoFi hasn't been very kind to Davante in his short career with the Raiders either.
He's 31. He has this year left on his contract.
He's all the guaranteed money is paid out this year. So he's
Okay.
due for a huge raise next year if they do choose to bring him back. Again, we know how NFL
See,
contracts work.
I'm going to be honest with you. So in 2015, Eric Weddle's contract was up, and he was 30 years old. And basically, Tom Telesco told him, "You're over 30. We just don't know if we're going to bring you. We don't think like they basically told him he's not going to come back because of
Yeah.
his age. Obviously, Eric still went to the Baltimore Ravens, played at a very high level, but it's just not usually in his MO to pay players over 30 that. And obviously, Davante is going to want a big bag. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting, especially like you said, if the Raiders start off slow and it looks like, you know what, just unload him somewhere, get some draft picks or some compensation for him. That could be a huge storyline that you guys are following, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing with Devontae too is, and I've written this about him before, is that he's kind of the anti-diva receiver, right? I mean,
Yep.
he's
Yeah.
not the Randy Moss, he's not a TO, and yet he's going to get a gold jacket. He's going to get a bust at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But, up until when Derek Carr got benched, essentially Devontae since high school had really only had two quarterbacks in his life, in college and in the pros, and Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, and then Derek Carr again. Then Derek Carr gets benched. Then all of a sudden it's Jarrett Stidham. Then last year he's got Jimmy G. Then he's got Brian Hoyer. Then Aiden O'Connell. Now he's getting ready to work again with Gardner Minshew. So what had for Devontae had been nothing but just consistency through his college and early NFL career. It's just been nothing but adapting on the fly. So again, it's one of those situations where, well, how comfortable is he? And I talked to Davante about this one-on-one last year for a story I did, where he said, this is not what he expected. He wouldn't say that he was unhappy, but he definitely said, this is not what I expected either.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. They had a pretty good team heading into last year, and there was Josh McDaniels and all the expectations.
Yeah.
Obviously, that all went away. The offensive line, where do you think that offensive line is right now?
Yeah, we're going to find out. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are going to let us know exactly where they are, right? Cole Miller is the centerpiece, even though he's out there on the left side. And I wrote about him this past weekend. You got Cody Whitehair, who's a veteran who understands the scheme because he played for the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, in Chicago.
Yep.
Andre James is now he's settling in as the center, and they paid him. Dylan Parham, who was a left guard, now he's moved to right guard, where he's actually more comfortable with. And then a right tackle, Thayer Munford, who, again, is just a first time ever starter. I think he's in his third year now, but it's a first time starter. So it's a more athletic offensive line. It's one that is not overly big. It's not going to maul people or blow people over, but with the zone blocking scheme that they want to employ, and with a more mobile quarterback, it's what they're. The one thing I will say about the Raiders is they're definitely trying to adapt their skill set to the player, or adapt their philosophy, for lack of a better term, to the skill sets of the players, rather than trying to force the players into this scheme, skill set scheme. So it'll be, again, once it becomes real and they're playing Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, and it'll we'll find out soon enough.
What do you make of Luke Getsy so far? I mean, there was some things last year where I remember Justin Fields before practice said, "Oh yeah, I'm kind of frustrated with this," and then after practice, he's like, "Oh no, that's not what I meant." Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of frustration with him. But how do you feel like his offense is going to do with this Raiders team?
It's a fresh start for everybody. So, and one thing that you don't want to ever really kind of spit on it, so to speak, but he obviously wasn't their first choice. They thought they were getting Cliff Kingsbury at one point to be the offensive coordinator, and then that just kind of fell apart. And then Getsy did interview right away. So they kind of pivoted and went that way. The thing that's interesting to me about him is that you think about offenses today and you automatically start thinking about passing games. Well, this is a guy who, for the past two seasons, and his first two ever as an offensive coordinator, as a play caller, he authored the number one rushing offense in the league 2 years ago. And then last year it was the number two rushing offense in the league. So that should set up play action passing for a mobile quarterback, which is, should again be a good thing for the Raiders. So a lot of that, though, is going to fall, again, like we talked about, the offensive line, settling into their roles, but also a new running back in Zamir White, who's taken over for Josh Jacobs, who led the league in rushing 2 years ago. So it's going to be real intriguing to see how it all kind of fits together. And with the new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback, a new offensive line, their number one overall draft pick is a tight end. They've got weapons. Let's just see how they utilize them. And the fact that Getsy's actually going to call plays from the sidelines, that again is going to be real intriguing to watch too.
What about the two tight ends? I mean, Michael Mayer last year, they get him, and then they obviously go and get Brock Bowers, as you said. That was a pick that I don't think anybody saw coming.
No.
Brock Bowers was linked to the Rams, linked to the Chargers, linked everywhere except for Las Vegas. But what do you make about the two tight ends that they now have?
Expect to see a lot of 12 personnel as long as they're both healthy. Brock Bowers practiced today for the first time in more than 2 weeks, so that's positive for the Raiders. And he appeared on the injury report, limited with a foot. But the fact that he should be good to go, that's going to give them some options. And when you think about the three tight ends that they have, Harrison Bryant's also there. Bryant, to me, from what I've seen, has the best hands of the group. Bowers is kind of the unicorn because you could put him at H-back. And there were some couple plays where I saw him like lined up as an H-back and running dives right up the gut. And then Michael Mayer just kind of reinvented himself physically, and he's kind of the Gronk of the group. If that's, maybe that's raising the bar too high, but that's kind of the skill set that he's shown too. So they can do a lot of funky things with 12. And sometimes we even saw 13 personnel a couple of times during training camp and early in the exhibition season. So, they've got a lot of toys. Now they just need to have enough snaps and enough first downs to play with them, so to speak.
ESPN Raiders reporter Paul Gutierrez here jumping on with us. He's awesome. You guys need to follow him on social media. Paul, the defense. Now, I know that's the bread and butter of this team. Everybody's very excited about the defense. What is one area of weakness? We'll get to Maxx Crosby and Christian Wilkins in a second, but what's one area of weakness that you kind of see when it comes to this defense?
I don't know if it's a weakness so much as a question because of what the cornerback situation is. Jack Jones, I mean, this really is a guy that for the first time in his career, he's cornerback one. And there were a lot of questions about his maturity level. There were a lot of questions about the gambling he does in games, but that's what you get. You'll have the spectacular pick six, and who can forget that on Christmas Day when he had the pick six against Mahomes, the last game the Chiefs lost last year before going on that Super Bowl run, and the way he stared him down. But then in the exhibition season, we saw one where he bit super hard and got beat for a touchdown. But that's what you get with him. And then on the other side of the ball, Jacorian Bennett, who started last year as a rookie to begin the season, but then injuries and ineffectiveness found him back on the bench and more on special teams. So the two cornerback spots are really what I'm intrigued, not intrigued, but that's the biggest question mark to me, because I think what you're going to get from Maxx Crosby and Christian Wilkins up front. I think what you're going to get from Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo as the two linebackers in that nickel defense. But the two corners on the outside, those you really don't know yet. It's going to be exciting one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. When I was at the one training camp practice that I went to, I just remember that they had no pads on, but Maxx Crosby was getting to Aiden O'Connell almost at will. And I know that's kind of a oof for the offensive line, but it's like a wow, look at Maxx Crosby. Just Maxx and Christian Wilkins, that duo just looks like it's going to be something spectacular. What has it been so far watching them throughout training camp with the pads and obviously leading up to Sunday?
Yeah, it means good news for Malcolm Kuntz, right? Because they can't double team everybody on that line, and Malcolm on the other edge. I mean, that's going to be more opportunities for him. That was one of the things I wrote about. One of the storylines this offseason was that Maxx was wrecking practice too much. He wasn't letting the offense get into their sets. He wasn't letting them work on things they needed to work on. And there was at one point when they actually had because the Raiders didn't have any joint practices. They had a live scrimmage against themselves at nighttime there in Costa Mesa, which was just gorgeous to be able to go there at night and watch that.
Yeah.
And the first snap, he rushes through, grabs Gardner Minshew by the jersey and threw him to the ground. And it was like, what is going on here? So it was funny, but it was almost like it was a blessing and a curse for him to be there because, that old saying, iron sharpens iron, yada, yada, yada. But if you're going out there and you're blowing up practice so much that the other guys can't work on their own stuff, and the fact that Antonio Pierce had to pull Maxx off the field to let them get into their sets and let them work on their plays. Okay. So it's kind of finding that fine line there between, letting Maxx go 110 miles an hour and saying, okay, let's peel it back a little bit and let these guys work on it. But then also it's not going to get any easier for Thayer Munford in a game when he's going up against Khalil and Bosa and the other pass rushers in the AFC West in particular. So that to me was the second biggest after the quarterback situation. Second biggest storyline of camp was, how do you can't tame Maxx Crosby, nor would you want to, but you need to find that fine line between him totally wrecking practice and letting him help get other guys better.
One last question on the defense. Tyree Wilson, what have you made so far of his camp, and has he progressed? Has he regressed? What have you kind of made of his training camp and going into this season?
Yeah, if he was an offensive lineman, I'd say it was great because he never really stood out. And that's the thing about offensive linemen, right? If they stand out, then they're doing their jobs. Defensive linemen, pass rushers, you want to see them flashing. And there were a couple opportunities where he did flash. Physically, I mean, he's in great shape. And again, it's one of those things where it's like you're just waiting for him to take that next step. You're waiting for something to click. And the fact that he showed up on the injury report, again, was a full participant, but foot. And then you start wondering, well, is it the same foot that he had to have surgically repaired before his first season in the NFL? Is it something different? But he's a full participant. You don't know. It's one of those things where you're looking at him and you're just like, okay, when is something going to click, and when is he going to really take off? Because physically, he's got all the attributes, and then he's got a guy that's riding him nonstop, and Maxx Crosby. Christian Wilkins being there should help him too. So it's just, he didn't flash as much as I think a lot of people, whether it's fans, coaches, media, whatever it is, wanted to see, but everything is there physically, and he got a heck of a lot bigger too. So we'll see. He needs to get that first jump off the ball when the ball is snapped, and then just watch him win one-on-ones, and then I think you just kind of build off of that, but you still need to see that too.
There you go. Paul, what do you think of I got to get some Karate Kid in there with you. So the movie with Daniel-san and Jackie Chan, are you excited about that movie? What do you make of that?
Yes and no. I mean, anything Karate Kid, I'm all in. Give me the Miyagi verse. I'm good to go. I'm real intrigued. And again, I know, are we a spoiler-free zone, or can we give spoilers?
No. We could do. No. You had to have watched it by now. What are we doing?
So the first 5 episodes of the new season of Cobra Kai, I'm wondering if that's how they're going to link it. Because remember, when they're looking through Mr. Miyagi's box, and they found that he fought in the tournament there, and I don't even want to say it because it sounds ridiculous the way they pronounce it, but they find Miyagi's headband and there's blood on it and everything. I wonder if that's how they connect him to China, because they could say that's where the tournament was when he fought there. Because remember when Chosen picked up the coin and he looks at it and he says, oh, this is from China. So that to me meant that that's where the tournament was, and that's the one thing I had an issue with the Jackie Chan movie, was he learned Kung Fu. He didn't learn karate, so it should have been the Kung Fu Kid. But that's just me being somebody that grew up in martial arts since I was 4 years old.
I love that. Last 2 things, Paul, and then we'll let you go. Again, thank you so much for jumping on with us. I don't know if you heard, but there's going to be something special going on this weekend at I think halftime between the Chargers and the Raiders.
Oh, they got Banda. I'm going to bring my trumpet.
They got Banda playing this. Look at that. They're going to be playing it live from SoFi Stadium every game.
Oh, really?
There you go. Yeah, they're going to be having that this weekend, so should be a good time. Go ahead.
It's different, but it's the same. I do have a photo, and I'm pretty sure I've shown it to you. I played the solo fall of '87 Rams Buccaneers at Anaheim Stadium.
You did show it to me.
Yeah, so there you go. So I've got experience playing a trumpet in a stadium before, and I still have the same horn. So
I love that.
Got to see it. Rhythm is going to get you. Miami Sound Machine. Rhythm is going to get you.
I got to ask you about this picture that you took of Chicago Bears quarterback Jim Harbaugh. Just what do you remember about this day?
I remember it was hot, and I'm 20 years old. I'm in junior college and stringing for my hometown newspaper, the Barstow Desert Dispatch. So my dad and I would go to Raider games. We'd probably go to 4 or 5 a year, and he'd be my driver, and he'd sit up in the press box and collect the notes for me, and I'd go down on the field and I'd shoot it because I was taking photo classes at the junior college at the same time. So that's what I remembered about that was, being a Raider fan as a kid growing up, looking at the uniforms and thinking, man, this should have been Super Bowl 20 when the Patriots just wrecked everything and went there and just got blown out, because the Raiders lost to the Patriots at home, and the Patriots beat the Dolphins in the AFC title game, and then the Bears beat them. Nobody was beating the Bears that year in my 15-year-old mind anyway. But to see the Raiders and the Bears, that should have been the Super Bowl. But to watch this game and the Raiders pretty much smoked them. And it's funny because I have another photo. I haven't been able to find it yet, but I know I took like 3 or 4 in a row of this play. And Greg Townsend recovered the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. And I just recently saw Greg here at alumni weekend, and we talked about it. And again, he talked about it like it was yesterday, and just talking about the play and everything. So, yeah, I was down there 20 years old, down on one knee, taking photos of the game, and the play just happened right in front of me.
Yeah, no, that's just a great picture, and it looks like you're like right next to Harbaugh and him. So
zoom
that's
lens,
just
zoom. I had a zoom 210.
I love it, love it. I love it, folks. Before we head out, though, you guys do need to check out Paul Gutierrez's book, "If These Walls Could Talk: Stories from the Raiders Sideline, Locker Room, and Press Box." And it's also you have Tim Brown that also speaks in it, so that's definitely awesome. Paul, plug a little bit about the book so that fans know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say don't buy it, but it's funny. Every time I write a Raiders book, it becomes kind of out of date like the next year, because this came out in 21 when John Gruden was still the coach. Derek Carr was still the quarterback. A lot of other things hadn't happened yet that were unfortunate, very unfortunate that season. But it's good to get Lincoln's tales. It's written in his voice, a lot of it. I have a couple chapters of my own thoughts in there about myself and my journey and in journalism, where I really kind of cut my journalistic teeth covering the Raiders, way back when. And that photo is a prime example of what I was able to see and what I was able to do. I was there when Bo Jackson ran right by me and got tackled and never played again. So the book in and of itself it's kind of like it's definitely a labor of love, but it's also kind of cool to get Lincoln's take as an actual player in the grind of what his relationship was with Al Davis, what his relationship was with fans, and his thoughts on the team moving from Oakland to Las Vegas. And he pretty much pretty much called the Derek Carr situation too. And this isn't to take a shot at anybody, but he says it's in the book. He says he liked Derek Carr. He was a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that's ever going to win the Super Bowl for you. And when things don't go his way, he's like a little boy who takes his ball and goes home. And what happened when Derek Carr got benched? He took his ball and he went home. So not a shot at anybody. Don't take it that way, but it's the book is fun. There's a lot of little stories like that in there as well.
Well, remember Joey Bosa said that about Derek Carr after a game one time. He said he curls up into a little ball and he gets I thought that I was like, whoa. I'm like, dang, okay. So
weren't he and Khalil talking about it too? And Joey actually told something about your boy, your guy, blah blah blah. So it's at one point players on the opposing team started saying the quiet part out loud, and that's when it's like, okay, I think it's time. It's time to move on.
Yeah. And fans, don't forget 100 Things Raiders fans should know and do before they die by Paul Gutierrez, and also Jim Plunkett has talks in there, or speaks in there as well. So definitely awesome. Paul, you've done it all. And before I let you go, though, I do have a little surprise for you.
Oh yeah.
The guy that you wrote the book about, he talked about Derek Henry and Lamar Jackson. Take a look at this.
Derek freaking Henry. Good luck tackling this guy. I used to look at our safeties. Derek Henry, let's say you're an unblocked safety and you're in the hole and you got nobody blocking you. You just got to tackle Derek Henry. You want that job? You ain't going to sign up for that. Derek Henry in this zone read. Let's just say you're the defensive end and the tackle blocks down, and Lamar Jackson sticks the ball in Derek Henry's chest. Or if you chase Derek Henry, Lamar keeps it. If he keeps it, who the hell stops Henry? So that combination of Derek Henry going one way and Lamar Jackson going the other way, good God, I wouldn't want to be a part of that.
I literally texted John this morning and congratulated him on getting his own YouTube channel show, and he just wrote back, LOL, all in fun. So yeah.
You gotta love that one. That is awesome. Paul Gutierrez, thank you so much for jumping on with us. I can't wait to see you on Sunday to give you that bro hug. It's been a while, so definitely excited to see you on Sunday, and football's back, baby. How excited are you?
I'm so excited. I'm actually looking forward to maybe hearing San Diego Superchargers, the disco song. That's where I am right now. So take us out on that.
Gotta love it. Thank you so much.